Hey there, Heaven's Echoes family. So glad to have you here. Have you ever wondered if there's a greater plan for your life, especially in the most intimate areas like love and family? Have you found yourself searching for answers or signs amidst the uncertainty of relationships? In a world where connections seem increasingly complex and chance often appears to dominate, the Bible invites us to contemplate the story of Isaac and Rebekah, a romance not orchestrated by blind fate, but by the intricate and loving providence of God. In this video, we'll dive into the beauty of this divinely orchestrated encounter, unveiling how God's hand works in the details, guiding hearts and fulfilling purposes through love. Our narrative takes us back to Abraham's tents, an aging patriarch with the weight of years and the wisdom of a lifetime of faith etched into his face, his skin weathered by the sun and countless journeys. Abraham, faithful to God's promises and eager for his son Isaac to marry someone from his own kindred, avoiding dilution of the promised lineage among the Canaanite peoples, whose customs and idolatry were a constant spiritual threat, sends his oldest servant Eliezer on an epic mission. We read in Genesis 24:2-4, Abraham said to his senior servant in his household, the one in charge of all that he had, "Put your hand under my thigh. I want you to swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not get a wife for my son from thee, daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I am living, but will go to my country and my own relatives and get a wife for my son Isaac." Think of the solemnity of that oath, the firm grip of Eliezer's hand under Abraham's thigh, feeling the patriarch's wrinkled, strong skin, the seriousness in his master's gaze, and the profound depth of responsibility felt by the servant, a silent yet heavy burden he accepted with unwavering devotion. Eliezer sets out from Mesopotamia, facing a long and arduous journey of hundreds of miles across the desert, under the scorching sun that burned exposed skin and the vast silence, broken only by the rhythmic tread of the camels and the creak of leather saddles, with the urgency of a sacred duty weighing heavily on his heart. The fine dust clung to everything. The taste of sand in his mouth was constant, and each night spent beneath an immense, star-studded sky, dotted with stars shining like diamonds, was a reminder of the challenge and the desperate need for a miracle. Upon reaching Naar's city, the servant faced an immense challenge: how to identify the woman chosen by God among the many young women who had come to the well. It was late afternoon. The cool air began to blow, and the murmur of female voices approached the well, carrying the soft clinking sound of clay jars lightly bumping against each other. It's at this point that faith merges with prayer and action, revealing divine providence in its most detailed and personal form. In Genesis 24:12-14, he prayed, his voice perhaps a whisper, choked with hope, his eyes closed in fervent supplication. "Lord, God of my master Abraham, make me successful today, and show kindness to my master Abraham. See, I am standing beside this spring, and the daughters of the town are coming out to draw water. May it be that when I say to a young woman, 'Please let down your jar that I may have a drink,' and she says, 'Drink, and I'll water your camels too,' let her be the one you have chosen. For your servant Isaac, by this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master." Visualize the inviting gleam of the fresh water in the spring, the weariness of the journey weighing on his shoulders, and the servant's tense anticipation, the distant sound of laughter from approaching young women, and the strong beating of his own heart as he waited. Almost before he finished his prayer, Rebekah appeared, her jar on her shoulder, her steps light, exuding an aura of grace. She was very beautiful and a virgin, Genesis 24:16, and her beauty was not only physical, but also spiritual, revealed in her demeanor. Eliezer hurried to meet her, asked for water, and Rebekah, with surprising kindness and a warm smile that brightened the heart, promptly replied, "Drink, my lord." Then she quickly lowered her jar to her arm and gave him a drink. After she had given him enough to drink, she said, "I'll draw water for your camels too, until they have finished drinking." Genesis 24:18-19. The scene is a true ballet of providence. The specific and bold prayer, the immediate and supernatural answer, the serving attitude that exceeded all of the servant's expectations, sign that resonated with the purity and generosity he sought. The sound of water gushing into the trough and the satisfying slurping of camels, quenching their thirst, were like the melody of divine confirmation, a taste of victory for Eliezer that mingled with the profound relief of knowing God had acted. Divine providence extended even to Rebekah's family's acceptance. After being invited into her home, where the air was fragrant with the smell of freshly baked bread and hospitality was evident, the servant wasted no time resting. Before even eating, he insisted on recounting his mission and the series of miraculous events that confirmed Rebekah as the divine choice. Rebekah's family, especially Laban and Bethuel, were compelled to acknowledge God's hand, responding in Genesis 24:50-51. This is from the Lord. We can say nothing to you one way or the other. Here is Rebekah. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has directed. There was no room for human doubt or objection. The evidence was overwhelming. The decision was not merely human, but a celestial design, bringing with it a taste of peace and destiny that filled the room, dissipating any shadow of uncertainty. Imagine the feeling of relief that flooded the servant's heart, the warm certainty that his mission had been successfully completed, and the gentle breeze of divine approval he could almost feel. Rebekah, in turn, demonstrated her own faith and courage, a silent strength that propelled her. By agreeing to leave immediately, without hesitation, for an unknown land and an arranged marriage with a man she had never seen. Her reply, "I will go," Genesis 24:58, is an act of trust echoing Abraham's faith, a bold step towards God's plan, with the chill of the wind on her face as she left her home forever, with the warmth of conviction in her chest, knowing that God's hand was guiding her. The reunion between Isaac and Rebekah is one of the most tender and touching scenes in Genesis, a balm for the soul. Isaac, who deeply felt the loss of his mother Sarah, was in the field meditating as evening approached, perhaps seeking solace in the solitude of nature and the reflective silence of the day's end. There was an empty space in his tent, a lingering scent of longing since Sarah's death, and Isaac, the son of promise, remained unmarried at 40 years old. This was a moment of quiet reflection, perhaps nostalgia or yearning. Under the mild evening sun that painted the sky with shades of orange and purple, and the cool air that carried a smell of damp earth, we read in Genesis 24:63-67, Isaac went out to the field one evening to meditate, and as he looked up, he saw camels approaching. Rebekah also looked up and saw Isaac and got down from her camel. She asked the servant, "Who is that man in the field coming to meet us?" "He is my master," the servant answered. So she took her veil and covered herself. Then Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he married Rebekah. So she became his wife, and he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Imagine the coolness of the breeze that carried Rebekah to him, the gleam of hope in Isaac's eyes as he saw her approaching, the soft sway of her veil as she humbly drew near. It was a love that blossomed instantly, an unexpected sweetness that spread through his soul, a sense of home found in the gaze and presence of his new wife. Rebekah's arrival in Sarah's tent was more than the coming of a wife. It was the fulfillment of a promise, the gentle touch of divine providence that restored joy and fullness to his life, filling the empty space with the fragrance of a new beginning and the promise of a vibrant future. Yet, like in every human story, not everything was smooth sailing. God's providence manifests not only in happy beginnings, but also in the challenges and struggles of real life. Rebekah was barren, a deep pain and an agonizing silence that stretched on for 20 long years. The promise of a great lineage made to Abraham and passed to Isaac seemed threatened. A heavy burden Isaac carried in his heart, perhaps with the bitter taste of disappointment at times. However, Isaac, unlike his father in a similar situation, did not seek shortcuts or desperate. Human solutions. He prayed fervently to God for Rebekah, feeling the weight of the promise's responsibility on his shoulders, in a profound solidarity with his beloved's suffering, his words rising like incense to heaven. And God heard his prayer. In Genesis 25-21, we read, Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife, because she was childless. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. The joyful sound of the first baby cries at the birth of the twins, Jacob and Esau, brought not only indescribable joy, but also the challenges of favoritism, sibling rivalry, and family deceptions that would follow, with the palpable tension in the tent as the boys grew. Even before the twins' birth, God's providence manifested supernaturally. Rebekah felt an unusual commotion within her, an internal whirlwind that led her to seek God's face. She inquired of the Lord about what was happening, and he answered in Genesis 25-23, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples. From within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. This prophecy, whispered by God himself to Rebekah's heart, was a glimpse of the divine plan in action, a resplendent truth she would cherish. This foreknowledge, however, did not eliminate the complexities of family life. Isaac's favoritism for Esau and Rebekah's for Jacob created a climate of tension, an imbalance that would eventually lead to deceptions and flight. Nevertheless, even through these human imperfections and failures, God's purpose would continue to unfold, proving that divine sovereignty does not depend on human perfection, but weaves its work even through the threads of fragility. Every choice, every mistake, every tear, and every smile were, in some way, being used to fulfill the plan of a God who sees the end from the beginning, feeling the pulse of history in his hands. The story of Isaac and Rebekah is a powerful reminder that God's providence is not an abstract concept, but a tangible and active reality in our lives. It teaches us the importance of specific and persistent prayer, trusting that God hears the whisper of our hearts and acts in the most minute details, even in the request for water for camels. It encourages us to seek God's direction in all our decisions, especially those that shape the future of our family and our relationships, feeling the gentleness of his hand guiding our steps and the certainty of his care even in moments of waiting and challenge. God is actively involved in the journey of love, in the formation of homes, and in the fulfillment of his purposes through every generation. His providence is the invisible fabric that binds all the threads of our lives, transforming mere encounters into divine destinies, and every difficulty into an opportunity to witness his faithfulness. It is a melody of hope that resonates through every stage of our lives, an aroma of certainty that perfumes the uncertainty of tomorrow, ensuring that, just as Isaac and Rebekah found love and purpose under divine direction, we too can trust that he is working in our stories. If this video brought peace and clarity to your heart, I encourage you to hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this liberating truth, and of course, subscribe to Heaven's Echoes for more soul-nourishing messages that strengthen your faith. May God's sovereignty be your greatest certainty and your deepest source of peace. Your faith journey continues here with us.